Hi, I'm Nico and welcome to my channel. For today's video, it's just gonna be a simple one where I build the MG Qubeley while answering some questions about Gunpla. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for Gunpla and Plamo content. Now, let's get started. Most of these questions are from you guys, and some are like generic questions that I compiled. So first up, Francis Cortez wants to know, what was the first Gunpla I've built? I built my first Gunpla when I was around 7 or 8, and I'm not too sure, but I think I built it during a backhook contest here in the Philippines. For those that don't know, before GBWC, the official Bandai contest was called Backhook World, and the World Championships were held in Hong Kong, unlike now where the World Championships happens in Japan. Anyways, there's kind of like free workshops at events like these where you can take home a free entry grade kit if you finish building it at the event. There are still events like this nowadays actually. So what I built as my first Gunpla is an entry grade strike Gundam, if I remember correctly. Next question. Any models you're hoping to work on or Gunpla techniques you're hoping to teach yourself? So a kit that I really want to work on is the Master Grade O. It's hard to find right now, although I know it gets reprinted, but there's just a lot of people who wants to build one, so I've never actually seen one for sale ever since getting back into this hobby years ago. And I also want a Master Grade Deep Striker. I haven't bought one just cause I know it's gonna take long to build and customize, and I don't have the time for that right now. As for Gunpla techniques, I want to learn how to add LED lights to some of my builds. I kinda know what to do and what materials I need. I just don't have the time to sit down and do it. But yeah, that's something I want to teach myself. This next question is from Bacchus Endo. I'm not sure if I said that correctly. But he wants to know, or she wants to know, what's my favorite Gundam timeline? Universal Century, Future Century, After Colony, or another timeline. I mentioned a couple of times before how I'm not familiar with Gundam lore because I don't watch it, so I'm not super knowledgeable when it comes to the timeline and the story. So my answer is gonna be based from the looks and designs of the mobile suits from that timeline. And so my favorite timeline would have to be the Universal Century. I know it's a boring answer, but I just really love the classic designs of the mobile suits from this timeline, especially the kits from the 1 Year War, which I'm hoping to collect soon. Next question is from Chris Ward. What is your favorite Gunpla project you've worked on so far? Most of the time, I don't love a project right after finishing it. I always feel like I could have done more and make it better. But there are also times where I really love a project after finishing it. Those times are far and few in between, but I'm gonna have to pick a top 3. So the first one, this is a custom build that I was really proud of, and it was my favorite for about a year or so, which is a long time, but it's my first diorama build after getting back into the hobby 3 or 4 years ago. And then after that, I also really like my building diorama with the yellow grays. I just love how it looks and the story behind it. And lastly, I love the Zaku diorama. I mean, just look at it. I feel really proud of this one because I learned a lot, but also because it hit a couple of milestones. It's now my most popular video here on YouTube, and it's my first article for Fine Scale Modeler. So I really love what I did with that one. Terashi wants to know, do you prefer grunt types or Ace/Gundam suits? At first, I really liked the Gundam kits, but then later on, I ended up liking the rival mobile suits more, like the Zaku and stuff like that, as well as grunt types. Because for me, grunt types are like the perfect canvas for customizing. It's easy to make one look good, unlike with Gundam kits where you really have to make them look elegant and powerful. But that's just me. Follow-up question from Terashi. Xeon or Federation? This is kinda hard because I love kits from both sides, but I'm gonna have to go with the dark side. because of the Zakus, the Dom, the Goof, and basically all Xeon kits. Mark3208 wants to know, are you working or are you still in school? And what's currently on your workbench? So I do both basically. I'm still in school but I also have a job. I used to have a part-time job but now I got a full-time job. On my workbench, I currently have a few projects that I should be working on. I have an RG Eva, an HG Zaku, an MG Qubeley, and an MG Goof. The MG Goof is the priority right now though, because I'm almost done with that one. Next is, do you name your custom builds and give them backstories? I used to name my builds because I know other people do that. They think of cool names or titles for their builds, but I'm just not that creative. So after like 2 or 3 builds, I stopped giving them names. But I do have titles for when I do dioramas. I also make up a story for my diorama builds, but not for every single one. Most of the time, the story just comes up to me when I'm adding a detail or two, which helps me know if I need to add something else to the diorama. This question is from ExtraX0. Do you have any other hobbies aside from Gunpla building? Honestly, Gunpla building takes most of my time, so I can't really say that I have other hobbies. But I do enjoy reading and watching movies. And I know other Gunpla builders are also gamers, but not me. I suck at games. ExtraX0 also wants to know, how did you get into Gunpla and how did you learn your mad skills that some of us still struggle with? Thank you for saying I have mad skills. I still have more to learn and there's still stuff that I can do just yet. But thank you for thinking that. So I got into Gunpla when I was around 7 because my dad builds Gunpla. Every night after work, he will just work on a Gunpla build until midnight or so. And then my sister and I would usually just sit by his side and watch him work. So yeah, I got introduced to Gunpla at an early age. And of course, we would also go to the competitions with my dad. Like the whole family will just go and stay at the event for hours. Usually, my siblings and I would get to buy coloring books and we would sit on the side and just color away while my dad mingles and talks with all these other Gunpla modelers. So that went on for years, I think. And then one day, I apparently just told him I wanted to join as well, and here's the actual conversation. And so the next competition I joined and I won a bronze trophy. After that, I just did some snap building here and there, not really doing another custom build. And then 3 years later, I joined again and won bronze. After that, I totally stopped doing Gunpla for a couple of years until 2018 when I came back to the hobby. Although I didn't really take it seriously until about 2 years ago. As for where I learned my skills, basically everything I know is something that I learned from my dad and his blog from before. Of course, I also learned a lot from other awesome modelers like Toy Maker, Eric Yap, Becky Lo, Seth Tuna, and a lot of others. Some of them I met in Singapore for a Tetsujin event. And then after a while, I just developed or found new tips and tricks that worked for me. And lastly, what are your thoughts on GBWC? And are you planning to join this year? I've always thought of GBWC as a fun event. I have fond memories from when I joined before, mainly because you get quite a few kits if you win. And it's very exciting and fun because you get to see a lot of different custom builds from a lot of different people. And ever since I decided to come back and do Gunpla again, the plan was to always join GBWC. Kind of like a full circle moment, I guess. But then the pandemic happened and the online contest, Gunpla Builders Contest, didn't let me join because I posted the video on my YouTube, whatever. And so finally, after years, GBWC is back, though on a smaller scale, but I will still be joining. It's a bit of a bummer because Kawaguchi won't be physically judging like before, and you'll only get one limited edition kit as a prize, unlike back then when you would come home with bags of prizes. I mean, it is still exciting though because there will be a physical event and it won't be a full-on online contest. So you'll see me walking around the event when GBWC rolls out. And feel free to come say hi if you want, although I'm shy and I may look like a snob, but I'm really not. But anyways, these months leading up to GBWC is gonna be exciting. And so that's it for today's video. I want to say a quick thank you to everyone who's still sticking around even though I haven't been able to release a good video. But hopefully I find the time this month or something to actually finish one of my work in progress and post it. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching.